to wear or not to wear here in D.C. is turning into a really complex question. The latest mask order for Mayor Muriel Bowser's office is a full 6 pages long, filled with complicated exceptions, and has a provision that lets restaurants and businesses ask you for proof of vaccination if they want to. This is after a Friday mask order that left restaurant owners confused when it stated fully vaccinated people could enter indoor establishments without a mask. That was changed Saturday night, a clarification that everyone needs to wear a mask in common areas of indoor establishments, vaccinated or not vaccinated. And it left Mayor Muriel Bowser saying this today.
There was an error out of my office. That's just plain and simple. And so what is correct was posted on Saturday.
Meanwhile, wedding planners report they are still scrambling to move events out of D.C. as Bowser is standing by a prohibition against standing room receptions and unseated activities like dancing.
It's not my sense, it's a public health sentiment that we are still maintaining physical distance. And in venues where there's other activity that adds risk for the spread of COVID, like alcohol consumption, is even more significant that people maintain social distancing.
So for clarity's sake, here are the current highlights of D.C.'s masking order as it stands right now. Masks are required in indoor establishments, but small private groups of fully vaccinated people are allowed to take off masks indoors. Businesses may require visitors to show proof of vaccination and can refuse service to unvaccinated people. As for weddings and dancing, indoor standing room receptions and dancing are still off limits. Seated events can occur at 25% capacity. In Washington, Scott Broom, WUSA 9.